Excuse me,
Ah, yes, madam. How can I help you today?
I'm looking for a gift for my daughter. She's always helping other people. She's a nurse, you know.
And you've come to a second-hand store for such a special gift. Wow, you really are a wonderful mum.
Oh my, this doll looks wonderful. It's exactly what I've been looking for so long.
What, that doll? That that doll with the split eye and the cracked face? Wow, you really are going for mum of the year, aren't you? Hey. Um. Oh yeah, $10.
Wow, a true bargain.
Yeah, yeah. And a curse.
Hmm?
Oh, nothing, nothing. I'm just reading something. Um. Anyway, I hope your daughter enjoys the gift. So, Annabelle is a movie released in 2014 starring Ward Horton and Annabelle Wallis and directed by John R. Leonetti. Now, this movie is a spin off from the main Conjuring movies, centered around Annabelle, the doll that's introduced in the very first Conjuring movie at the very beginning. And to tie that all in very nicely as well, we do get a reminder of the very beginning of that movie, where we see the three young girls talking to the Warrens about Annabelle, about their experiences and how they've been haunted, how it all started quite slowly, letting or giving permission to Annabelle to take possession of the doll, and suddenly then things starting to go awry for them. And what we learn is that actually Annabelle isn't the person possessing this doll; it's actually a conduit for a demon that's, yeah, essentially made itself known and is, looking to take up one of the souls of the three girls that inhabit that house with them. After seeing that, what we see is a flashback to 1 year earlier, where we're then introduced to the main plot of this movie. We're introduced to John and Maya, who are a young married couple, both churchgoers who have gone to church with their friends and neighbours, and we see that they're pregnant as well. And they're quite close to their neighbours, and their neighbours are in fact parents as well, but their young girl has run away from home 2 years prior, has gone off somewhere, and all we're told is that she's gone off to join a hippie commune, as is the opinion of John. In actual fact, what's happened is she's gone away and joined a satanic cult. Comes back later, or slightly later on in that movie, and with a male partner, kills her parents. After doing that, she then goes over to next door. She attacks Maya, stabs her in the stomach where she's pregnant, and also attacks John, and before the police turn up and shoot her and her partner. Now, interestingly, before this whole attack happens, John has very kindly gifted this doll to Maya, a doll that she's been looking for a while to complete her collection of dolls ready to put into the nursery to welcome the new baby. And this doll is the Annabelle doll that we are now associated with, that we now know as part of the Conjuring Universe, and it's locked away for a very good reason, as we find out at the end of this movie. But after the lady is shot by police, you see her holding the doll and her blood drips into its eye. And what she's also done is she's put a symbol on the wall in her own blood, which we find out is actually summoning the devil, summoning a demon, which holds onto or grafts onto the doll. And we find out the daughter of the family is actually Higgins, is Annabelle Higgins, who's referenced in the beginning of The Conjuring as being the spirit that wanted or requested permission to take hold of the doll, to possess the doll so she could live again. And the movie goes on from there. So strange things start to happen after that incident with the stabbing, and to the point where things start switching on, the sewing machine starts switching on, standard haunting bits and pieces, and then a fire happens in the apartment when Maya's there alone. That causes her to give birth, and because of John's work, he suggests that they have to move house, which Maya's very happy to do, as you would expect. And part of that process of moving, leaving, is getting rid of this Annabelle doll, because there's something about it that they don't quite like, and the fact that this horrible woman that attacked them was holding it as she died, I personally think is a very good reason to get rid of this doll. But when they move into the apartment, they realise that actually Annabelle has come with them. They put it down to there's been a bit of a mix-up with their property after the fire, despite the fact that John has, put it in the trash can outside. But yeah, Maya decides, actually, no, I need to move on from this. I need to be stronger, and keeps hold of the doll. And from this point, more and more things start happening as the entity starts to get stronger and stronger, and we realise that actually the entity is a demon and is looking to claim a soul. We learn that demons do attach themselves to certain objects as conduits into our world and try to manipulate a subject into giving up their soul, into offering up their soul before they can take it. And that's all built up very nicely because you start to see actually the manipulation taking place. You see that Maya's particularly vulnerable. And originally, she's very vulnerable because of her pregnancy, about wanting to protect the baby. And she says that she is willing to do anything to make sure no harm comes to the baby, even to the point where she gets John to promise that if there's any complications in the birth, he saves the baby and not her, which he grudgingly does accept. And yeah, it then just develops later on where suddenly Maya's of the opinion that the demon wants to take the baby's soul, when in actual fact, what he's doing is, or what it is doing, is manipulating her into offering up her soul in exchange for the baby. And the movie does have a very satisfying payoff where you have the introduction of a bookstore owner who starts to sew herself into the life of this family, mainly because she's a believer of demons and ghosts and hauntings, has had direct experience with it, and has lost her daughter, believing that she is still there for a reason. Now, what happens is that she sees that actually a sacrifice needs to be made in order to put all of this to an end. She's there with Maya and John inside their apartment when all of this is going on. And before Maya can make the sacrifice, John comes in, stops her from doing so. But this lady then decides to make the sacrifice herself, offers up her soul, so everything is done and dusted. The family can then live as they want to, live in peace, bring up their baby, and the movie ends. And we finally see that the doll is then up for sale in a second-hand store. A woman goes in to buy it for her daughter, who is a nurse and always wants to save people. And that's what leads to the doll being in possession of the three girls at the very beginning of The Conjuring. I have to say the ties in this are absolutely fantastic with regards to the original Conjuring movie. Not only do we have it go full circle from it starting up with the beginning of The Conjuring to then flashing back to the events of this movie and then coming back full circle to the beginning of The Conjuring movie, but I think some of the other parts of it are just, they are just perfectly done. The suspense-driven sort of narrative that's in the Conjuring movies is also here as well. There are a lot of long shots used in this movie, and all of that is perfect to build up that sense of dread that comes with like a haunting movie, for example. There are some scenes where you see a young girl sort of off in the distance in across, the corridor from one room to another. And she stands there, she does nothing, and it's just a long shot. And you see nothing happening at all. You just see her stood still, and you see Maya just sort of staring at her just in pure horror. Until the door starts to shut, and the young girl runs towards the door, and as the door is pushed open, you see her as an adult Annabelle, as she was when she attacked Maya in the first place. And all of that is just, it's just the sound design, everything like that all comes together to just fill you full of dread whilst you're watching it as well. So there's no like sudden twinge of fear for it to go away straight away. It does stay with you for a little bit, for a couple of seconds afterwards. There's also some fantastic moments where Maya, for whatever reason, goes down into the basement to put some bits into storage, and there are some strange things going on. And she does everything right, as you would expect. She runs out of there, she tries to get into the elevator, but the elevator won't let her leave. It keeps bringing her back down to the basement more and more and more, until she has to run up the stairs. And as she's going past, or as she's running up the stairs, she looks down, and there are sort of little glimpses of the demon itself, until you do see the demon's face, basically. And all of that is it's just horrible to watch, but also you just can't get enough. You can't look away. And the other great thing about that scene as well, or that whole sequence, is that feeling of claustrophobia. But first of all, when you're in the elevator, that's all nicely well lit, but you feel as though that's your safe place, that's it. And that's mirrored by Maya as well in the film, until after a few times trying to escape, the lights start to go out in the elevator, and all of a sudden you realise that's not your safe place anymore. She needs to get out, she needs to go somewhere else, and everything's in darkness. She's got a solitary torch, that's it, to find her way, and she drops that and can't go back for it. So now she's stumbling around in the darkness, and you feel that with her as you track her movements through, following her as she goes round and up the stairs. You just feel as though that enclosed feeling that there's no way out of it at all. There's the only way to get out is to keep going. And you feel yourself sort of spurring her on, going, keep going, keep going, keep going, just to get yourself out of that situation as well. And that's just absolutely brilliant. And the way that's played off is superb. And what you also get with this movie is an expansion of the lore around sort of the world that the Warrens live in, that you've been introduced to in the Conjuring movies. And with Annabelle in particular, you start to learn a little bit more around the demons, about how they work and what they're looking for, what their purpose is. But the one thing you don't hear, that nobody seems to know about, is how to stop it. And that just gives you that sense of despair and almost helplessness that the main character's feeling, that Maya's feeling as well. No matter how much research she does, you cannot find an answer to stop it from happening. And all of that blends perfectly well together to give you the final payoff of the scene. And whilst you get more and more characters introduced and their backstories are made clear, it doesn't bog the story down. It, it enhances it, because the backstory of the bookstore lady, for example, that all comes about whilst they're trying to get to the bottom of the research into this demon, and she's explaining how a demon operates and what ultimately is going to happen. And yeah, it's not exactly fast paced, this movie, but there's no grinding to a halt. It's just constantly going through and through and through, and it keeps you engaged in it. It keeps you like locked in with the constant incidents or the constant hauntings that are going on. In particular, when the baby's then involved, where you see that the demon is trying to separate Maya from the baby, trying to physically put a barrier in there that she can't get past, and putting the baby at risk, in danger. Now, I really did enjoy this movie, just purely because I am a bit of a sucker for anything that expands the lore of an established universe. And, whether it is a good or bad film, I'll always be interested in exploring what that movie has, or what story that movie has to tell with regards to the wider lore behind what's already been set out. And I'm very pleased to see that actually this movie was a really good watch. And for the reasons that I've already set out, I don't really think there's much to criticise on this movie at all, really. I think if there's anything, perhaps it is a case of some of the decisions not really being sort of shown in it. Like, I don't really understand how it's gone from how you manage to sell a doll or a possessed doll on, or what your morals are, what morals you're bringing into question, especially when you think as though everything is over. Is it just a case of trying to forget the bad memories that doll has brought about, in which case you're trying just to like sell it on and get rid of it? Or is it a case that you've always got that sense that something bad is there around that doll, in which case the ethical morals that were built up with these characters, it slightly contradicts that. But I'm willing to overlook that, to be fair, just because it doesn't really add or take away much from this movie in the grand scale of it. So I'm going to give it 4 stars. So that was my review of Annabelle, the very first spin-off from the Conjuring Universe. Have you guys seen it? What did you guys think about it? Please pop it in the comment section below. As always, thank you very much for watching this video. I will be back with another installment in the Conjuring Universe. But until then, you guys take it easy, and I'll catch you on the next one.